Please watch the video until the end to feel the full warmth of this story. Chapter 1: The Smell of Basil. She who tells this story remembers the block before the neon lights and the bannered festivals, when the street lived quietly by the rhythm of ovens and the clatter of plates. That woman, call her Lucia, had lived long enough to know that neighborhoods are memory machines. They breathe out old recipes, arguments, and first kisses. On the corner of Marconi and Pearl there stood two family pizzerias, separated by a narrow alley and a history so thick you could taste in the dough. One belonged to the Ferrantes, whose pies had a salty tear of sea brine in them from a recipe that remembered the coast. Across the street, the Romano family ran a wilder, herb-heavy style that made basil the star. Lucia loved both, not because she favored one taste over the other, but because the argument between them stitched the community together like a stubborn but beloved seam. Chapter 2: Childhood Fires. From childhood, Matteo Ferrante and Rosa Romano were inevitable. They grew up racing along the alley, trading treasures, an old coin, a pressed wildflower, a napkin with a doodle, learning every secret step between the kitchens. Lucia often sat in a doorway with a cup of espresso and watched the two of them become adept at small rebellions. Matteo sneaking a wedge of lemon rind into a pie to see Rosa wrinkle her nose. Rosa slipping a sprig of oregano onto Matteo's battered bicycle seat. Their love started as a spring of daring, the kind that compels you to climb a roof to see if the moon will look different from up there. It was stitched into their childhood. The way Matteo would trace a charcoal line on blank pizza boxes and give them to Rosa. The way Rosa would crush garlic under her thumb and hum a tune she'd composed for him. The adults, meanwhile, kept their count of slights and late deliveries, and the few that had begun with a quarrel over a recipe adjustment hardened, like a burnt crust on the opposite oven door. Chapter 3: Flour and Fault Lines. As they grew, Matteo and Rosa learned the complicated arithmetic of love and loyalty. Matteo, who had inherited his father's steadiness, took on the Ferrante shop's ledger, trying to keep the books balanced while keeping his temper from tipping. Rosa, bold with a laugh that could unstick the most stubborn pan, insisted on experimenting with toppings that made old customers shift and then come back because they could not stay away. The feud between their families became a calendar of small cruelties. A sour word cut across a holiday meal, a forgotten delivery, a banner taken down and replaced with one in another color. Lucia watched the old men at the coffee counter measure time by grudges. It thrilled and hurt her at once to see Matteo and Rosa meet in narrow alleys and windowsills for kisses that happened in the shadow of other people's anger. Chapter 4: A Festival of Tests. The annual Harvest Festival arrived with confetti, a marching band, and a competition that every shop dreaded and desired. The neighborhood's best pie contest. For years, each family had its own claim to glory. This year a new sponsor, a foodie blog with a glowing following, promised that the winner would be featured in a story read by thousands. The prize meant more than pride. It meant customers. Rosa wanted to win for the Romano name, and Matteo wanted to win for Ferrante. But beneath that pride simmered a private plan. A hope that the applause at the festival might drown out their family's stubbornness. They practiced in secret, Matteo kneading with the patience of someone composing a letter, Rosa experimenting with unexpected herbs, and a drizzle technique learned from a street vendor. Lucia saw them both, smelling of flour and herb steam, and felt the pulsing ache of a love that would rather make something together than fight. Chapter 5: The Tipping Point. On the eve of the festival, a rumor slipped like smoke through the block. Someone had used a secret Romano technique at the Ferrante shop. The accusation flared into an argument the next morning that felt ancient and final. Eggs were cracked and tempers flared. Matteo's father accused, Rosa's uncle retorted, and soon the street echoed with names and slights. Matteo, affronted and ashamed, did the only thing he could think to do. He stepped into the middle of the street and offered to withdraw. Rosa, furious at the implied treachery and the sting to her family's honor, refused to stand with him in public. The lovers' harmony broke into a brittle silence. Lucia watched as their hands, once intertwined on rooftop tiles, clenched into fists at their sides. Chapter 6: Secrets from the Oven. When all seemed lost, it was an old woman who fixed the map. Nana Rosa, who presided over both families' histories as if she had stitched them herself, invited Lucia to sit with her beneath a striped awning. There, among jars of sun-soaked tomatoes and stacks of plates, the Nana revealed a truth. The feud had begun with a misunderstanding that had been fanned into legend. A recipe had not been stolen. It had been a shared adaptation, made in a moment of hunger and silliness, when two young people, long before Matteo and Rosa, had experimented together and forgotten to tell the elders. Armed with this revelation, Lucia became less a bystander and more a conspirator for reconciliation. She brought the two of them a plan. A pie that would be impossible to claim as one family's alone, created by both hands under the watch of anyone who came to see. It would be proof that art could be communal. Chapter 7: The Sharing Slice. At the festival, the street hummed with expectation. Stalls bloomed like flowers. Lights caught in the folds of awnings. Matteo and Rosa arrived together, not as a secret but as a choice. With Lucia and Nana Rosa beside them, they opened the ovens and revealed a pie neither family could claim alone. A crust that sang of Ferrante patience, a topping that exploded with Romano audacity, and a drizzle of something new that made the crowd nod and then cheer. The judges tasted, and the block exhaled. The story the foodie blog later told did not dwell on the feud. It lingered on the faces of two families who realized that the recipes they'd kept like armor were, in truth, the threads of a shared fabric. The applause was a kind of amnesty, and the festival became the time when grudges loosened their hold. Matteo and Rosa did not storm into a cinematic reconciliation with a fireworks display. Instead, they walked down the alley, past two kitchens whose ovens had cooled in the afternoon light, and kissed in a private doorway. Lucia, watching from a bench with a steaming cup of coffee, blinked away the sudden moisture at the corner of her eyes. She had witnessed the ending of something and the beginning of something larger. A neighborhood learning how to forgive. If you enjoyed this tale, please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, give the video a like, leave a comment, and share the video with friends.